So today, the session is around optimizing your website for volunteer recruitment with SEO and AI tools. For those of you that haven't joined us in the past, my name is Garni Wong. I am the CEO and co-founder here at Civic Champs. And yeah, we put on webinars on a pretty regular basis. So hopefully you find this one to be educational and welcome you to join us in the future as well. In terms of my quick background, I've done a couple of tech startups. That's actually how Jim and I got connected. Jim used to be with a venture investment fund and that had invested in Civic Champs and has kind of been a mentor for us on some of this things in terms of how startups can grow. And so that's how we got to meet Jim. And then, yeah, a little bit, I guess, yeah, in terms of introduction on Jim. So Jim is based out of Pittsburgh. I've known him for a number of years, but I'll actually let him sort of introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Gang. Yeah, and welcome everybody. I hope this is going to be fun and entertaining and as interactive as you want to make it. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I started out in marketing and then ended up through a variety of a series of unfortunate events, let's call it, as a software developer, and have been so for a number of years. As Doug mentioned, I transitioned to working for a VC firm, helping software companies build product and go-to-market strategies and things like that. And now am running Orchestra AI, which is a platform to help you generate and spin out marketing campaigns and get your message out easily, quickly, and without all the dull and boring and repetitive stuff. I am in Pittsburgh, born in Detroit, moved here from Boston, so bounced around a little bit. My volunteer passion, I've been doing this for about 20 years, is helping underrepresented people start and get into tech. It's been a wonderful and rewarding career for me and a fascinating field. I like solving puzzles, and software is basically just a giant puzzle and sometimes infinitely frustrating. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, so I try to help others get in. Two truths and a lie. Cousin owns a pet penguin. I was a college basketball recruit at age 39. And I was featured on a greeting card in Poland. Y'all can decide which one. Put them in order, drop them in the chat, and we'll wrap up in a bit.
Those are very good. Yeah. Definitely the greeting card. I see Hillary. Number 2 is a lie. Your cousin is in pink. Everything is a lie. Everyone believes a wide variety of things here.
Do you want me to take over and start in, or do you have anything more you want to cover?
I think the only thing for me is we do have just the logistics, but people often ask these questions, right? So we'll be sending the slides in the recording afterwards. And then we're expecting this to run about 30 to 40 minutes, followed by Q&A. And then if you have any questions, we'll put those in chat. And then we have freebies at the end, so please do stay through till the end. So yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Jim. Yep.
All righty. Forward through here. All right. As with anything else, I'm gonna, assume we're starting from some fundamentals here, and we'll talk about search engine optimization just in general. What is it? Why should you do it? And then we'll kind of go from there. And I guess the first place to start is just thinking like, how do search engines, and I'm going to use Google, like when I talk about search engines, they all work pretty much the same. So Google's like Kleenex, right? It's a brand name that just, works for them all. But how they decide what to feature in rankings, and specifically how they decide what to feature in the top, because the value of being the top 1, 2, or 3 result for any given search is exponential, right? Every time they map clicks, the number of people who click on the first one all the way down to number 10 drops precipitously. So the higher you can get, the more likely you are to get people visiting you. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is get people to at least hear what you have to say. Number one thing that search engines use to decide what to feature, and you'll hear this phrase probably in other places, is called EAT: expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. Those are the 4 categories specifically that Google uses to talk about, okay, what site is more valuable for a given search term. And you might be highly rated for one search term and maybe not for others. Probably if someone's trying to buy a blender, none of your sites are going to show up. But there are definitely ways to do this. And they have a set of criteria. Their algorithms are proprietary and private, and we're not supposed to necessarily know what they are. They're closely guarded secrets. It's the formula for Coke, that kind of thing. But interestingly, there's a lot of people out there who just spend their entire days trying to reverse engineer it, figure out what goes into it. You can get a PhD in reverse engineering Google. I don't know why you would want to. It's kind of sad, but you can do that. So talking about the first 2, expertise and experience, those are coming from the content on the page. They're a measure of how well you know the topic and how valuable your insight is when you put something out there, when you put a blog post out there, when you put something on your website. Of course, like, a search engine really can't evaluate experience. Like, it has no concept of that. So they actually use a metric called dwell time and interactivity as a metric for expertise and experience. Dwell time is literally just the amount of time that someone sits on that page. So they are going to make an estimation that the longer somebody sits on the page, the more likely that they feel like this is a valuable content and that they're getting something out of it. They'll also measure, like, do you scroll all the way down? Do visitors go all the way? Do they read all, or do they immediately bounce, and that kind of thing? The other thing that they measure in that is interactivity. So if users actually interact with your page content, then they consider that to be more engaging, and they're looking for that kind of stuff as well. So I don't know how many of you have ever seen that, like, you go to a web page, like a news article or something, and like a third of the way through, it has a little read more button.
We're gonna go for a little walk.
Hidden. Does that ring a bell? Have you seen that little, like, read more button? Yeah. So that is a trick that website publishers use to get people to interact with their content. That's literally all it does. It has no value other than that. Silly, but that's the thing. So that's like half of what Google uses to measure the value of your content is dwell time and interactivity. How are users interacting with your content? The other 2, authority and trustworthiness, are even less like scientific. It's somewhat silly. Obviously Google wants to feature people from organizations that are authorities on a particular topic. They're trustworthy. They're not spammy sites. It's not full of garbage and things like that. But they have very little ways to evaluate that. It doesn't know the content per se. It doesn't know who's good or who's not. So they literally use backlinks, the number of people who link to your site, as that, and that is a measure of your authority and trustworthiness. There are a few other things that go into it, but that is by and large the number one thing that Google uses to determine who's an authority or who's trustworthy on a particular topic. And so the rough guideline for a website that's trying to use SEO in general to get, to do outreach and things like that, is it's probably not going to have the impact you want until you have about 1,000 links into your site. So I'll show you how to check that in a little bit. There's also domain authority. Some third parties, we talked about the PhDs and Google algorithms, which again, sad, but they exist. There are companies, entire companies, Moz is actually a publicly traded company who only exists to help people rank high on search. And thankfully, they give you a way, they publish what's called a domain authority, which is a measure of a lot of different things, but one of them is, backlinks as well. And they're designed to tell you what sites are more likely to be ranked high in Google and other search engines versus not. So there's two of them. When you get the slide deck itself, these are linked so you can go and play with them. I'm going to show you one really quickly, just for grins. All right. This is the Ahrefs website authority checker. Give me like one person, go off mute and give me a domain name, and we'll test it live. Or I don't have chat up. Let me, yeah, that's okay.
Neighborly.org.
Right. What was that?
Neighborly.org.
All right. So domain rating of 45. It's about average, not bad, not good. 369 backlinks, 146 unique sites backlinking to it. So yeah, those are just really easy ways to figure out like how are we doing this. If you're looking to grow your presence and trying to rank more highly in search, checking these every once in a while is a little bit like checking your credit scores, through the credit monitoring agencies. You can't really control, you can control this a little bit, but it's good to know what they are. Questions so far? Anyone on any of this before we move on? All right. In terms of like the material you're putting out, I'm sure not all of us, are in marketing, but it does help to think like a marketer. And the easy way to do that is just to think about your website's audience. When people are coming to your website, who are they? What are their typical profiles? And just make a list. Make a list in scratch paper and a Google Doc and Notion, wherever you keep lists. Keep a list. You've got donors, you've got volunteers coming to your website. Any others that any other types of organization that you can, any other types of person you can think of, clients page, yeah, depending on what type of nonprofit you're involved in, you may have people coming to actually access services, so that's another type of organization. Staff, certainly, board members and other kind of second party. So go through and make a list. It does help to put these in order of like size, population size, and then rank them based on, all right, how many of them are there that visit your site, and put them in order of, if we could only serve one group for whatever reason, we'd rank this one over this one, and just go through the entire list and put them in rough order. And then the next thing to do is think about their jobs to be done. This is one framework that I like to use. There's a couple of different frameworks. It's just what are things that this person, what's, for those of you who are, remember the old Richard Scarry book, what do people do all day, right? These are, what do these people do all day? And specifically, it doesn't have to be what do they do all day that you specifically can help with your nonprofit, but just thinking in general about what are their challenges, what are the things what are the dragons they want to go slay, what are the things they want to get accomplished in a given day. And that list right there ends up being a good proxy for the type of material you want to have on your website. In some cases, it might be, direct answers to a question. They come to you looking for family members, looking for their loved ones or something like that. So you can have a prominent link and an article on all the services you provide and that kind of thing. But it may be more topical. It may be things that are challenges that they have on a daily basis that you can't necessarily, you don't necessarily do as a business, as an organization, but you can help by offering guidance and advice from your perspective. And that's still valuable. That gets people showing up at your website, which gives you a chance to connect with them, to bring them, to teach them what you do and the value that you provide. So just those two things is a great start for content that you can create to produce and put out in your site. And we'll talk about written versus images versus video and all those things a little bit later. But those two things are a really, really good start. All right. Search Console. How many of you, rough show of hands, I guess, have ever logged into Google Search Console for your site? Does it ring a bell? Okay. That's good. I mean, it's good because, we're going to learn something today. Search Console is the Google's authority for what it knows about you specifically and your website and your organization. It's totally free. It's really easy to get set up. Most specifically, if you want to know the number of links that are out there and who's out there, what ranks you have for each individual search query, it's all here. So I'm gonna try another demo here, so we can see how this goes. This is actually Civic Champ's website. Sorry, Gang, sorry, Chloe. But I figured you'd be okay with showing this off because it's a really good, you've got great traffic and great stuff. This little bottom link here, so it's just search.google.com. If you haven't set this up, it's super easy. It'll ask you to verify that you're a domain owner by sending you an email, and you can just reply to it. It'll say, okay, yeah, fine. This will give you everything everything Google knows about your website in one spot. It is very raw data, so you kind of got to dig around a little bit. There's lots of companies out there that can aggregate it and summarize it and things like this. When you sign up, though, it does do a pretty helpful monthly email that just shows you your top growing pages and your accomplishments and things like that. But along the side here is this links. This number here, external links, that's your magic number for trying to get to that 1,000 number and over. So those are organizations that are linking into you. So again, this is one of those what I do is typically put like a 30-minute meeting on my calendar once a month to just go in and go through this and check it out and see what happens, see what I need to be doing about it. All right, so moving on to AI here. What does AI play in all this? It used to be that writing all this stuff took forever. It was a field of specialty. You had to typically, if you weren't a good writer, you had to hire ghostwriters to pull all this stuff together. Thankfully, again, in the last 18 months, generative AI has come out that's made a lot of this stuff easier. We've almost switched it a little too far to where it's almost too easy to put an entire blog post out in about 15 minutes by just asking for help and then copy pasting it out. That's almost just as bad, but there's a nice happy medium in here. First off, I'm sharing a set of prompts, a site that I use for prompts. Anytime I want to know, like, hey, I need a LinkedIn post that covers this, great prompts there, pulling into ChatGPT gives you a good start. And again, totally free. So I'm trying to keep things as free as possible here. One of the things that I do personally after having fallen for the, oh, this content looks pretty good, let me just copy paste it onto my website, straight from ChatGPT, and finding that it's kind of actually dull, is I've started using what I'm calling an Oreo cookie model. Everyone loves cookies, everyone loves Oreos. So the way that you use this is take ChatGPT or whatever your favorite tool is and say, hey, I want to write an article about this topic. Maybe you've got a title for it, maybe you don't. Give me an outline for this topic aimed at this audience, and featuring, any specific things that you want to include it. And you can say, I want to make it 1,600 words, or I want it to be approximately 5 minutes to read, or 3 minutes to read, or whatever it is, whatever you know about the length, anything you can get it. If you want to say, please make it, an 8th grade reading level, that's helpful as well. But just give me an outline, and give me, for each subsection, give me a title of the subsection, and give me like 3 bullet points that it should cover. And it'll do a great job of that. It'll give you a nice outline. You can pull that into Google or Word or wherever you want to do your actual writing. And then take the outline, make sure it makes sense, because sometimes these things don't always make sense. But, assuming the outline is good, now you've got a place to start. My personal nemesis is the blank page. So if nothing else, ChatGPT and these other tools have gotten rid of that blank page problem. I can usually dive in and start writing once you tell me, like, hey, give me, a couple paragraphs on these topics. And so now you go in and you add your expertise. You're all accomplished people in your field, you know your topic, you know what your audience is looking at, you have something unique to say. Fill out the middle pieces. You're the filling. Fill that out. Once you're done, take the finished product. When you think you're happy with it, take the finished product in and paste that back into your prompt, in your ChatGPT, and say, what did I miss? Did I get the writing level good? Am I using too much passive voice? Critique me, tell me if there's anything here that I should rewrite or polish. Is this grammatically correct? Did I misplace a comma? Give me a summary of all the things that are wrong. And if you know enough to do it, just rewrite it. And that level of polish, it does a great job at that. And you can actually ask it, like, please explain to me your logic behind each change as well. And then once you've done that, like, you've got something that, again, should be your words, your core, your heart, but with the benefit of a pretty good outline and a really good proofreader. And that's, honestly, it's magic. And yeah, AI is fascinating. For those of you who've used it, I'm sure you've seen, a lot of this stuff. It's not necessarily the challenge with it is that it's like very, very confident and sometimes very confidently wrong. So it will always give you an answer. It will always tell you, like, yep, here it is. This is exactly what you need. And, it tries to please you. And sometimes it will tell you factually incorrect things because it thinks that's what you wanted. So I always treat it like, I don't know, for those of you who have friends who, like, if you sit them in front of like a Jeopardy, they will just like bang, like rattle off like casually rattling off answers, not even looking at the screen and still rattling them off. They're in the other room fixing a sandwich and still answering it. Like that is ChatGPT as a human. Like that's what it is. It's really, really good at facts. It doesn't necessarily have the context that you have. So if you can treat it like someone who has a ton of facts, but no context, a super intelligent baby, right? Then that's a good way to work with it to get the most out of it. Be nice to it. This is really weird and fascinating, and no one really knows why. But there was a scientific paper published a little under a year ago that says that shows that the output of generative AI is better when you are polite, which is, I mean, it's fascinating, right? That shows that, you know, it's not intelligence, but there's something in there that's absolutely fascinating about it. So something to consider, like say thanks. It's nice. Tools. The tools that I use, I mentioned this a little bit, like ChatGPT obviously has a lot of the mind share because it's been free and it was the first mover, first product ever to 100 million users. I personally find the word delves to be like cringe offensive, like because I've heard it so many times. AI loves to use the word delves. Today's digital world dives in. I'm sure you can drop your other favorite AI phrases in the chat, because AI definitely will go back to the same handful of phrases. And at some point you can start to see, like if you're looking through LinkedIn or you're reading an article, like you can tell like, oh, this was AI. I can tell because it used that phrase over and over again. I have started incorporating Claude, which is another large language model from a company called Anthropic. Functions pretty much the same as ChatGPT, just because I can get it to sound like a human. For those of you who are old enough to know Ferris Bueller, like ChatGPT can sound like that teacher from Ferris Bueller, or it can sound like that cringe teenager who's like using all like slang. Like it only has two voices. And Claude actually can sound like just a normal person, which I appreciate a lot. For those, like, I know in nonprofits, a lot of spaces, a lot of times you need to do some research, right? You want to make a claim and you want to cite some sort of like relevant statistic or some sort of scholarly article that backs up your claim. AI is generally not good at that. ChatGPT, in fact, will just make up sources. Sometimes it'll be like, "Oh yeah, Harvard Business Review, no problem," and it doesn't exist, but they'll do that. So I use a tool called Perplexity to help me get research and be able to pull up scholarly articles. It's a general purpose large language model, but it just happens to be very, very good at scholarly research. So let's share that over here. There's Perplexity. Again, same kind of thing. Somebody drop a question in chat that would be good for like a scholarly. Yeah, while I'm thinking of a good question here, Perplexity is the same way as ChatGPT. Like it has a limited free version. It will prompt you to try and upgrade. It also has a $20 a month program, but it is free. Yeah, there we go. So you can see, like, it gives you links to, like there's Texas food banks. There's a couple of others out there. So if you want to go in and cite something, you can quickly review this, grab one of the citations, hyperlink it, or put it as an annotation and go for it. Super useful. This is definitely its best feature. It's fine as a writer, but I use this specifically for scholarly research. I can imagine this being, if any of you are ever writing grants, this is going to be super helpful in pulling together backing and justification for a lot of the stuff that you're doing. Or if you just need to, painting a picture, like what is the broad space in which we're operating here. Perplexity is great for that. There's also one of the things that AI can do that's a little different than just individual things is workflows. So a lot of us have things where we need to do a bunch of research, put it into some sort of a spreadsheet, send it over, do some calculations on it, and then take the output of that and put it in a document that we're going to send to somebody. Bardeen, there's a whole category of AI workflow tools. Bardeen's my personal favorite, that just silently watch you do a task and then build an AI workflow to automate it. So once it's seen you go do a research, put it into a cell, copy it over there, it knows enough to say, oh, here's 50 more things you have to do. I got this. And it will just go ahead and do it. I wish I had time for a demo of that because it's super cool, but it's really, it's pretty complex. And go ahead and drop your other favorites in chat because I want to keep us moving here. I haven't been watching the clock here, but I want to keep us on schedule. But I'm always interested. The way that we learn cool new tools is from other people who have used them and are experts on them. So I'm always excited to learn as much as I am to teach. All right. Images and video. If you're only writing for text, you're basically anyone under 33 probably isn't reading your text. Right? That's just how kids are these days. They're on YouTube. It's a video-centric audience. So when you think about outreach to silly volunteers and people that you want to come to your site, you have to be thinking about images and video. Young mentioned Midjourney. Obviously, ChatGPT has DALL-E 3 in it. Both of those, I think, are pretty good. I personally, when I generate videos, especially if I want to put them up on a website, I want them to be, for lack of a better word, like photorealistic. I understand that these are generated images, they're not real, but if I'm trying to convey a particular emotion, I want people that look like people and not kind of plastic. And DALL-E 3 people, they just look a little plastic. I'm sure some of that is because they're concerned about people deep faking and making those types of things. But I use these for in my work I maintain access to a bunch of like stock image libraries, and those are super helpful. But when you can only use, there's only so many pictures of volunteers doing a cleanup, right? There's only so many stock photos to go through. So if you want photos of like something unique, these image tools are super helpful. So I want to do a demo of the one that I think actually does a pretty good job of making realistic people, which is Stable Diffusion 3. This is a tool called Fireworks that basically gives you access to a text image prompt here. So I just did animal rescue volunteers, and that's what I came up with. Totally generated image, would be perfectly fine if you had it on a website, for the right audience here. Give me another volunteer activity that you want to see pulled out here. I'm gonna do, I'll do them both. We actually got time here. I'm gonna do giving a tour in the museum. Once I get into here. The other thing about this is like, this is actually much faster than most image generation tools. So yeah, not bad. And if you want to generate it, just regenerate it. That's fine. That looks a little aggressive. Okay, that's fine. All right, planting trees. Pretty good. Like, hopefully that's not a missing hand. That's a big problem with some of these images and stuff. But the nice thing is you can keep going until you find something that you like. And then once you save them, now they become part of your brand library. Now you've got them to use in social media posts and blog posts and other things. Super handy. I will say, like, this particular model charges per generated image. So it doesn't have like a monthly, like, $20 a month subscription that you can use it indefinitely. I think that will come up eventually, but it's 6 cents an image. So you can go pretty far on like a couple of bucks. I'm almost done. Videos. There are tools out there that can generate short form videos with either your narrated voice or an AI voice that's superimposed over stock videos, stock images, or AI generated images. One of my favorites there is called Augie. I don't have a chance to demo it because it's fairly complex, but I've got it linked here. So when you get the slides, I'm going to check that out. It's pretty good. How many have Canva accounts, Canva Pro accounts? Definitely. For $120 a year, it is worth probably 10 times that in terms of time savings. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. The number of templates it has, the number of ways you can automate social media, blog images, and that kind of thing. It's an absolutely worthwhile tool. Definitely recommend picking it up. They have AI baked in, as everyone else does. That seems to be the theme of 2024, is like, now with AI. Theirs kind of stinks, but that's okay. Like, you don't need it. It's pretty good without it. Again, if you got others that you like for image and video, drop them in the chat. Local SEO. This is something most people don't really think about. I don't know how many of you are focused on primarily a local market, but especially if you're volunteering, getting volunteers for local activities. Local SEO is good. Like, when the last time you've seen your own Google My Business listing? Chances are pretty good that if someone does a search for volunteer opportunities near me and they click on you, they're going to hit your Google My Business listing first. So I've got a link to an audit and then a tool that I like to use. It's not free, unfortunately. I'm assuming because you stopped in that we're going to move on here, because I think I'm pretty much done. So yeah, perfect timing. Thanks. I know it was a lot of fun. I went through a lot of stuff here. Would love to connect with all of you and share more, because this is a topic I absolutely love. But Gung, I'll let you take over now. You're on mute.
No, I was going to say, yeah, no, this is amazing. If folks enjoyed this webinar, we do have a survey at the end. So if you want to leave feedback for Jim on how great he was, or any other feedback, we'd appreciate it. And of course, for Canva, just to reiterate Jim's point, right? It's free for nonprofits, including the Pro edition. And so even more reasons, you don't have to even pay the $120. It's just free for nonprofits. So definitely pick that up. And then let me share my screen here real quick. And then we'll sort of get wrapped up here. Yeah, and so for those of you who might not be as familiar with Civic Chance, right? So we always like to just make a quick intro about what we do. And so we provide nonprofit volunteer management software. It is not quite AI enabled today. We're taking baby steps there. But we try to streamline the whole process from recruitment to onboarding to scheduling, reporting and retention. We have a mobile app, we have a kiosk, but this is what our mobile app looks like for check-ins. You can use, click a one button to check in. We use geofencing, so it's kind of slick that way, so it knows that where you are, so it can kind of guess what you're trying to check in for. And then the other kind of neat thing that we do is we collect feedback from all of your volunteers, so they can say whether they had a good experience or not. I personally think that's really important for retention purposes. And so you can sort of see the feedback that people can leave you. And then of course we collect all of this into a dashboard. So this is kind of what that looks like, including, seeing the feedback that people have. My favorite feedback, by the way, are from theater groups. Their volunteers tend to be more colorful in the feedback that they provide. So sometimes that's an enjoyable thing for me to read through. And then if you want to stay in touch with Jim, if you want to reach out to him, obviously there's lots of expertise that he has in terms of AI, in terms of SEO. Hopefully, Jim, I assume you're open to this, but if folks have questions and they just want to kind of pick your brain, you would be up for that. Is that fair?
100%. Yep.
Awesome. And so and you can ask him the story about his koala bear. That's great. And so so this is Jim and I's contact information. Feel free to reach out to us. And then we will send a Google form. I think usually Chloe's going to put that in chat here. And so if you want to click on the link here in chat for feedback about the webinars, we've been trying to collect more feedback so we know what sessions people really like, what sessions maybe aren't resonating as much. So we'd love to get your thoughts here. And then as promised, we have just some freebies. And so these are shared by Jim. And so, Jim, do you want to talk about these freebies?
Yeah, I always want to give something away totally free. This is all, no obligation or anything, but I did want to make these available. One of the things that in my platform Orchestra does is it allows you to put together a press kit. So if you're getting journalist coverage or want to make sure that people are, if they're going to write about you, they're using your appropriate headshots, your brand images. You want to aggregate articles. So it also goes out and it does Google searches. So it'll find links that reference your team, your company, and say, hey, do you want to add these to your press kit? So it's sort of, self-building that way. A couple of examples in the slides. For those of you who are big Ted Lasso fans, I'm a massive Ted Lasso fan. I actually built one for AFC Richmond, so you can enjoy that if you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you should see it. It's great. And then Orchestra is has a full service marketing component as well. About a third of my clients are nonprofits. So we do long form content, social media management, and analytics kind of as a package.
Yeah, and Civic Champs is a customer. I should note that as well. So Jim has been doing a great job for us as well. And then finally, if folks have any questions, we'd love to answer anything else. I guess, that's a good question. How can folks get the freebies? Do they just email you in terms of signing up, Jim, or how do they know that you're?
Reach out to me. I don't have a lot of stuff self sign up yet on the website, but reach out to me and we'll get you set up.
Okay, awesome. All right, with that, any other questions from folks?
I just want to add that the presentation will be available after the meeting. I joined just a couple minutes late.
Yep. We're gonna share the slides and the recording as well. Yeah, generally that's always the case for our webinars, with Civic Champs. So we always send afterwards. So if you know that in advance, even if you can't attend a session, if you register, you'll get sort of the recording afterwards. So obviously, we like it when people come in person, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Tess in chat asked about someone. hit a question from Tess in the chat about, if you're a smaller organization, how do you increase the number of backlinks? So there's a couple of ways to do it. One is, get people to write about you. If you can get local media, those kind of things, those automatically generate backlinks. There are also a ton of directories that you can submit to that will, give you backlinks. The other thing is just reaching out to people in your space. Like if you have a bunch of people that you work with, partners, organizations, peer organizations, just reach out and say, hey, would you mind swapping links? It is, there's no magic way to do it, but it is definitely worth doing. It makes a difference. And a good average domain rating for those things is about 50 is, it's out of 100. So realistically, and it's, anything over probably 35 is fine. And only the biggest companies get into the 80s and 90s.
Right. Well, good luck, everyone, getting your SEO up. Yeah.
For those who didn't see it, the lie was the penguin. It turns out that's actually illegal in most of the US. The other two are true.
Remind us of the other two, Jim. One was you were on a postcard in Poland, and then the other one was
recruited as a college basketball player at age 39. We're pretty sure that was some sort of weird, accidental mail merge. But I did get, a letter from the school and a note from the coach congratulating me on my prowess and inviting me to attend their upcoming camp. I did not go. I've never played basketball. I do have eligibility, so I did consider it. But
NIL, Jim, NIL. You
I know.
making lots of dollars.
I could have been making a lot of money, except I have zero talent. So that would have.
Great. That could have been your shtick, the 39-year-old basketball recruit.
And one of my wedding photos was licensed to a stock photo thing, and it got scattered around the world. So it's on greeting cards in a ton of different countries. If you're doing karaoke in Thailand, I might be in the background. It's really weird. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to keep my eye out for that. But yeah, thanks, Jim. Thank you so much again for joining us today. Really appreciated your time, and thanks everyone that hopped on today for this webinar. And we'll be back again here shortly with future editions, and so look forward to that.